Busted Name and News. I'm your host, Dan, aka Smash O Mash, coming at you with another daily space and earth weather stream. But first, we'll talk about advice and fashion and whatever you, the viewer, has to talk about. So if you're viewing live or viewing in syndication, make sure you let us know so by leaving a comment. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to press the subscribe button, tell your friends and foes about us via social media, and help get the content onto screen. So, yeah, today perhaps some fashion stuff, right? Let's talk fashion. Do you take fashion advice from random noobs on the internet? I know I certainly don't, because I have certain agendas at play. As for me, fashion isn't just simply appearance. It's also the function of things like clothing, logos on the clothing, the businesses they represent, and of course the functionality of things, right? So yes, while I do look like a Joule, there's no doubt about that. I am definitely part zombie and part ghoul, and I look the part. However, the reason I have this ridiculous facial hair is to remind me to smash off my hair. So just a little update there. As winter rages on, my winter plumage is not yet in the mode where it's going to go away. So there's that. And of course, I look absolutely even more silly than I normally do with facial hair. So I have facial hair to remind me every time I look in the mirror or at myself on a stream just like this one, and I go, that's a mess. And so yeah, so that's the thing. I'm not trapped in the 90s. So yeah, and so let us know in the comments if you take fashion advice from random noobs on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and so on, because it's always interesting to hear about this, because people put up posts all the time, on Instagram, like, how does my outfit look? Should I wear outfit A or outfit B? For most of us, there's not a debate on that. I've got a lot of purpose-driven clothing. In fact, the layout of the rooms here is that Smash staff in my room, there's a separate room just for clothing, basically. It's the spare bedroom, and it's basically a giant closet. So got a lot of purpose-built clothing and a lot of purpose-built hairdos, because your hair keeps you a little warmer in the wintertime. How does it do that? It creates a pocket of air above your head. So if you're completely bald, a hat on your head is not as warm as if you have hair on your head. Period. Like, this is just factual, folks. People have palms on their hats for a reason too. And you may be surprised at all of the things that your clothes do that you're not even aware of. Hey, thanks for leaving a comment, Barbarian1111. Used to be business attire, now I'm more boho. What's boho? So anyway, I've ascended to the Smash studio now, where I'm now in French fry mode. I've got the red light on. It's good to get some, but of course, mainly blue light you want to get in the morning, folks. It is a sleep aid. Yeah, it causes you to make melatonin. So you have basically like a bank. You have basically like a bank. And you should fill your bank with blue light in the morning. You get blue light into your eyes, makes you sleep better at night. Features earthy tones, varied textures like lace, fringe, crochet, and comfortable. Okay, I get that. I've seen that style. It's aesthetic. Cheers. All right, so you guys wanna hear about space weather and earth weather? Is that what's up? Is that why people tune into the channel? I know there's certainly some other coverage. Is it competing coverage? I don't really think so. It's it's more like it's more like other coverage than competing coverage because we just don't really do the same things. And I noticed some other channels, they say some things that are very, very silly and alarmist about space weather. And I don't like it. It's part of the reason why this channel exists. Is because there are a lot of space, well, there are some videos out there and channels that do some things that are, shall we say, unethical with respect to space weather, in that they lie to their viewers. Um, I mean, I guess in some cases they're not lying; they're just mistaken. Because the difference between a charlatan and a fraud, folks, is that a charlatan believes his lies, and a fraud knows that he's lying, right? So that the difference is a misrepresentation of material facts versus unintentional misrepresentation of material facts. Intent matters when it comes to fraud. And so that's why, when people like Scam Altman say things that they know aren't true, or when that guy, what's his name? Milan Husk. He's like a husk resembling a human. Milan Husk, I think his name is. When he just repeatedly lies and lies and lies, and people just keep believing it for some unknown reason. Anyway, it's enough to make you become the light bearer. Have you turned to light bearing? Yeah, the symbolism on the channel, if it's too Luciferian for you, sorry? The symbolism is the sun, so cheers. Um, anyway, this is the past 12 hours of the closest star, and we'll cover various other space weather things. We'll even talk about weather. We'll show you some forecasts, and so on. So, let's see what's been going on in terms of flares. We did have an M-class solar flare. So that's a thing. That is the 3-day chart from the GOES 18 and GOES 19's X-ray detectors. Let's take a look at the closest star here in about 94 angstroms. That's a good one. And we can see some active regions rising there on that eastern limb. So that's what you want to see if you like space weather, and of course, on the channel. So yeah, this is the most likely place for large solar flares. Since we had an M-class event, we've got some more magnetically complex sunspots, no doubt rising there on that southeastern limb. Kimberly says, this isn't going to work for me. I just entered the cone of silence. I thought I might as well make my presence still count. Cheers. Let me put your chats on the screen briefly and share our homepage. By the way, folks, please visit our homepage if you haven't. You can find links to our social media right on there. There's what our symbolism looks like. The Smash News Network, least busted name in news, pardon the guerrilla filming technique, but that is the nature of YouTube. We get a lot of views when we stream in portrait mode, and not very many views when we stream in landscape mode. I mean, that's just the way it works. So anyway, press that share button, press subscribe if you're new, otherwise you won't get the world's most comprehensive daily space weather content right in your YouTube subscription feed. Homepage is where you can find links, which I'm typing in right now. We appreciate when viewers press share and follow us on social media, in that these corporate entities do a terrible job of getting our content onto screens. So while we do pay for ads, we don't pay very much for ads because, well, we want to get paid for this. We don't want to pay Google to artificially boost our content and get a bunch of phony subscribers. So basically the way it works, folks, is if you pay a lot for ads, you're guaranteed a bunch of views. Your videos will get recommended. And I mean, you can get subscribers that way, like real subscribers. But, we've been building this channel to 5,900, 5,900 subscribers over the past 7 years without doing much of that. So channel's been monetized since 2019. If you would like ads, if you want to be an affiliate on the channel, we'll consider it. Just drop us a line, and we're easy to reach on social media. We'll talk about what your brands are and so forth. And we've got some quotes from Revelation here in the comments, folks. Quotes from Revelation. You know that's going to be profound. 4:30 a.m. Coffee Talk with Dan. Yeah, cheers. I got up at about 3 o'clock, 3:30 or something today. Keep in mind, folks, that doesn't mean I'm an insomniac. I usually go to bed at like 8 o'clock. So it's, yeah, I can't maintain this ghoulish experience, this ghoulish appearance, and this ability to go uphill like a rocket on a bicycle without early bedtimes. That's probably the most important hack as far as performance hacks go. Here's another one that I'll share with all of you: leisurely strolls. Yep, because recovery is super important. And I'm sure if there are any elite athletes out there viewing this video right now, you'll agree that recovery is as important as the training. If you don't recover correctly, the 5 weeks that it takes to respond to like an 80-mile bike ride, like if you go out and do an 80-mile bike ride today, the full effects of that are not felt for over a month. So you have to have this like coherent plan. If you're not ready to go on race day, if you're not ready to go on race week, it's far too late, because it takes like 5 weeks for major athletic, especially endurance athlete type gains to come into effect. All right, what do we have here? Revelation 13:3 says, one of its heads seemed to have a mortal wound, but its mortal wound was healed, and the whole earth marveled as they followed the beast. I mean, yeah, that's a quote from Revelation. I don't know how it relates to anything, but thanks for dropping it in the comments. Working925. Matched underscore player 9K989 says, Jesus loves you all. God bless you, and may you have a blessed day, amazing day. Working925 says, 7 heads and 10 horns. Okay, thanks. More quotes from Revelation. Again, I don't know what it relates to, but cheers. Barb says, I am the light, fire and the light, dash, sun. Oh, a quote from the sun. All right, sweet. Barb's dropping sun quotes there. And if the sun's leaving you messages, make sure you let us know, because many people believe the sun is sentient and a life form and so forth. If Jesus doesn't get high, explain the Most High God. Okay, and same farm life as a kid, set my body clock. Yeah, farm life, that's good times. All right, let's look at some more space weather stuff here. Here's the latest from SDO. We're looking at helioviewer.org here because it's good. And as you can see here over on that southeastern limb, you've got active regions rising. So here we're looking at the SDO 171 angstroms wavelength, as well as the HMI magnetogram there. And wait, that's the intensity gram. The continuum, there's the magnetogram. And we do see, so this actually looks more active than this other sunspot group. And let's take a look at where that M-class flare did come from. Was it the north group or the south group? Bets in the comments, because I don't know yet, but I suspect it's from the north group. It looks more magnetically complex, but I'm wrong. You see that? That M-class event of relatively long duration, probably accompanied by a coronal mass ejection, is in the southeastern group, as you can see right there. So around 1600 yesterday is when that occurred. Next time we'll show 131 angstroms, but first let's look at those magnetic fields. So there is more sunspot behind that group, as that's not magnetically complex enough. There is a chance of large solar flares in this sunspot group as well, but obviously the south one is more active. Cosmic ray flux remains at a 22-year low. We haven't seen cosmic ray flux levels this low since the end of solar cycle 23, and it looks like cosmic ray flux will continue to drop here, as usually the end of the cycle is the lowest point. So from a solar plasma perspective, solar cycle 25 looks like a stronger solar cycle than even solar cycle 23. So this is a solar maximum. This is 24 maximum, which is the weakest solar maximum of the modern age, accompanied by the highest cosmic ray flux and the deepest solar minimum of the modern age. But this solar minimum was not nearly as weak as that one, and of course, it's yeah. Anyway, there's one of the X-ray producing high mass X-ray binaries. That's Cygnus X3, located in the constellation Cygnus. It is a cosmic ray point source, and so I monitor its X-rays. There they are. That's the last 20 years over there on the upper right. There's the daily. You can see a little bit of the 4.6 hour variation, as that is a very fast and very massive and very weird object. Next, looking at the University of Reading, the Huxt forecast here for coronal mass ejections. Keep in mind they are a little bit more liberal with their forecasting than NOAA, because NOAA affects more spacecraft. So do we have any more earthly directed CMEs? It certainly doesn't look like it. There is one there that's looking like it's going to miss Earth to the west, according to the forecast. So that one must have just launched. Let me bring that back. So that miss is expected to happen tomorrow on February 27th. So the coronagraph should reflect a CME there off to the west of Earth. Let's look at the real-time solar wind before we look at coronagraphs. Here is the solar wind, and we've got still elevated solar wind here. Coronal hole high-speed stream, 516 kilometers a second. Solar wind density nominal at 1.7 protons per cubic centimeter. That solar wind is measured here at Lagrange 1, not within Earth's magnetosphere. Let's take a brief look at Earth's magnetosphere. Right after we look at NOAA's forecast, and NOAA's forecast is not forecasting any major space weather events here. Just a little bit of mild geomagnetic unrest possibilities, but yeah, it's just a high-speed solar wind from a coronal hole high-speed stream. So here's what the magnetosphere looks like. We like to show the pressure. Since it's croissant Earth, you know, Earth is shaped like a croissant, not an oblate spheroid. Yeah, so there's croissant Earth over the past 4 hours there, and it's pretty calm for space weather. Quite calm. But things are looking up with an increase in sunspot number and radio flux and so forth. So there's the radio flux coming up off of its lows, which were around 108 solar flux units, now back up to about 126 solar flux units. The 10.7 centimeter radio flux, a proportional data set to sunspot number. So sunspot number here coming up off the floor once again. This is going to get quite a bit higher here. Now up to 33 sunspots. 33 sunspots, folks. And if you're spooked of the Illuminati because it's 33 sunspots, well, now's the time to get in your bunker. Get in your bunker, get your MREs, have a giant stockpile of gold and silver sitting there, and get yourself inside of a Faraday cage and hide, because low sunspot numbers, oh my God, it's very scary. Keep in mind, it's totally normal. Pardon the biting sarcasm, but like I said earlier in the video, there is a lot of, what's the right word, crap about space weather on YouTube. A lot of channels getting paid a lot of money to talk a lot of nonsense about space weather. But there's 33 sunspots. That's the sunspot number according to the Royal Observatory of Belgium. So here is a coronagraph. That's the GOES 19. I just pressed refresh there because we're expecting to see a CME out of the right side of your frame, and indeed there is one. That's the non-earthly directed CME. Then there's going to be another one on the left side of the frame a little bit later, and well, all right, maybe not, but that's there you go. That's the coronagraph. I've shown it. There's also a little bit of moon glow on there, and let's take a look at stereo A. To all you Canadians out there, let's take a look at stereo A. Do you say A? Are you from Nova Scotia? Shout out to Ricky, Julian, and Bubbles. Also, Ricky, Julian, and James T. Kirk, our Pleco. The Pleco who's boldly gone where no Pleco has gone before. So here is there's a stereo A coronagraph. And yeah, so no earthly directed CMEs shown here. Earth would be off in this direction. So we've got some far side CMEs, some that are off to the north, one that's off to the south, none that are toward your back door. Is your back door locked? If that's too edgy for you, then maybe this channel, maybe you aren't an adult. All right. So anyway, this is where planets are located. And yeah, it shows the moon phase. Keep in mind, the moon phase is not space weather. And Jupiter in retrograde, showing this pink glow around it. That's not space weather either. Although Jupiter does have space weather. It's like Jupiter space weather. Earth's space weather occurs between Earth and Sun from the D layer of the ionosphere to the photosphere of the closest star. Proton flux, seeing a couple little spikes here, and that is not noteworthy really in any way. Keep in mind, folks, coronal mass ejections happen on the regs, and a coronal mass ejection can happen with no solar flare and indeed no sunspots. So if a magnetic filament decides to break and go blasting off into space, that can happen with no flare. There's usually a radio burst associated with that, but you can have no solar flare, no sunspot, and a big CME. Sometimes when those CMEs snap off, they snap off in the right location where there is already a coupling with the sun going on, and sometimes those protons make it to Earth despite no major solar flares. But this one, there are CMEs associated with these events. And so basically what happens is sometimes those plasma flux ropes, they turn into plasma flux whips. And when you have a thing that's sometimes hundreds of thousands of kilometers in length doing this crazy whipping motion as it tries to reach static equilibrium on the surface of the sun, sometimes it blasts off relativistic particles. No solar flare necessary. Don't get coronal mass ejections and CMEs confused. They are separate events. And the GOES proton flux is looking specifically at SEPs, solar energetic particles, very high voltages. So 10 million volts, 50 million volts, 100 million volts, and 500 million volts are what this cover. This was only a tiny little, basically a blip on the baseline there for the 10 million volt, the low energy portion of the GOES proton flux. So those are not really noteworthy events. There would have been a slight increase in your Geiger counter during a polar flight, perhaps during those times, but it's quite minor. So the flare profile here coming up a lot, again, because new active regions rising on the eastern limb. Let's take a look at the latest of the heliosphere, as we didn't put out a video yesterday. So Earth will be in a small North Pole-oriented magnetic sector. There is a little bit of North Pole-oriented solar polar field sort of oriented at the Earth right now as that coronal hole solar polar field reversal process happens throughout the cycle. North Pole magnetic sector, but it's going to be short-lived, crossing a couple of current sheets into a South Pole sector in a couple of days, about 36 hours based on the way that looks, assuming nothing rapidly changes on the eastern side of the Earth-facing solar disk. Here is the line of sight coronal hole plot, looking at yesterday and today, just like we did on the top view ecliptic plane field plot. And you see those North Pole-oriented coronal holes with the field lines oriented toward Earth, as opposed to toward the sun with these rotating in South Pole-oriented coronal holes. We'll also take a look at some magnetograms. How about some magnetograms? Let's take a look at, I want to see if we've got, do we have El Teide? El Teide is old data. All right, so we'll stick with Cerro Tololo. There is Cerro Tololo, Chile. And of course, the important magnetic fields are these new rising sunspots. So I suspect we're going to see more fields rising here. There are some more umbrae behind the ones that we already see. These are beta class already, so these do have a potential to produce some flaring. But obviously, since we've already seen M-class events out of that one, that's the place to watch. Here's the red light imagery next, which looks more like you would see from your, personal $200 filtered ground-based telescope. And there you can see that northern group actually quite a lot bigger in terms of the umbrae that we're able to see at this point. Let's bring up the last image here. There's the last image. So we do see some varied fields there. It looks like there's a second umbra coming into view or perhaps forming behind this one. That's a good sign if you want to see large flares. This group down here is, again, I think there are going to be some more umbrae rising there. Let's take a look at that a little more closely. In 131 angstroms from the GOES 19. All right, great view of those. Again, pardon the guerrilla filming technique, but when we're doing it in portrait mode, it's just easier to do it like this than it is to run OBS and have all this other complicated software going on. It's just not worth the time, energy, and money involved, folks. So, yeah, it's basically a public service video because we create these videos at a massive annual operating loss. So, press the share button, press subscribe if you're new, press like, leave a comment, do the things, and help support the channel. Because we would prefer to continue making these videos, and getting paid for it would make a big difference. Would you like us to do this full time and just talk about the sun and cosmology and space weather and astrophysics all day long? I would do it. All right, so that's what's going on. Here is the full disk view, and basically those are the really only sunspots that are particularly interesting is those new rising ones there on the eastern limb. The rest of these, if there even are any, are barely even noteworthy. Next, look at plasma filaments through the hydrogen alpha. Cerro Tololo's hydrogen alpha telescope. Give it a minute to load. Donald Trump cut funding to the NSO telescope, so they have less bandwidth now because it's all got to go to Tesla. Elon needs all the bandwidth for XAI, folks. Elon Husk, you know that guy? That guy Elon Husk. He's like a shell of a person. He looks exactly like a human, and a lot of fraud comes out of his mouth constantly. That guy Elon Husk, you heard about him. He's taking credit for a bunch of other people's engineering and inventions. Anyway, here's a bunch of solar filaments on the Earth side of the disk, and we want these ones to eject. We want these filaments to eject, like today, so they become Earth-directed solar storms and create mid-latitude aurorae and make people excited about space weather and view into our channel and do all that kind of stuff. By the way, you can find us on Elon Husk's personal misinformation capital, otherwise known as Twitter. If you'd like to see a lot of science illiteracy, there's definitely plenty on Twitter. And there's plenty of us correcting people and creating and requesting community notes constantly and basically lambasting people who are yelling at clouds. There are a lot of people who are mad at clouds. So a lot of people that go outside and they see clouds and they say, look, it's man-made. Look at those natural clouds. They're man-made. It's from HAARP and NEXRAD and things like that. And it's a wreck. Would you like to get your brand logos on cycling kits this year? Well, we could make that happen, as there'll be some, this is a unique opportunity to have your brands represented for thousands of miles, dozens of times with dozens of riders, dozens of times with thousands of times with dozens of riders, and hundreds of times with hundreds of riders, and Anyway, follow us on X if you don't already. Look at the electron storm going on, folks. Look, it's an electron storm going on in the F layer of the ionosphere. So yeah, follow us on social media. You'll find the links on the homepage, which we conveniently pinned to the top of this live chat. If you're viewing in syndication, make sure you let us know if you're able to view the live chat. I believe there may be a setting that we have to change or something and find in the Kafka-esque labyrinth of YouTube settings. But last I checked, I'm not sure if the live chat is going to be visible to you who didn't view the video live. So it's a double-edged sword, right? On one hand, it incentivizes people to see the video live so they can chat and leave comments and have them seen and read in the videos, perhaps. But on the other hand, it's discouraging to people that don't catch the live stream. If you're sleeping when it happens, like, you know what I mean? You may want to be able to see the live chat. So that is a feature that we're going to make sure that we have set up correctly. And remember, folks, to curate your chat by clicking this top chat button and making it say live chat. Otherwise, you might not see all the messages that are in the chat. Is that crazy? Yeah, I know, it's berserk, right? Let's bring up the house favorite wavelength and your comments. Hi, Nolan Page R1D. Barbarian 1111 asks, WEF/Gates released a new video on rare diseases. Should we be concerned? No, we shouldn't be concerned because rare diseases are rare. So there's our house favorite wavelength, and we'll zoom in on that eastern limb because that is where it's at. Check that out, folks. That's the action. That's the action zone. The action zone. And we do have a little bit of moon eclipsing happening there. That's why you see that shadow. It's like a partial eclipse from the perspective of the GOES 19 SUVI. We also do have some action in this southwestern limb. So there is an unstable filament over there, and it's not fully ejected yet. Kind of reminds me of the Eric Schmidt filament, but I'll put my pointer right by it. This area right here, you'll see a CME just to the north of that. You see a prominence and a filament eruption happening there. Let me shut this off. Oh, that doesn't do anything. All right, perfect. That's what you want to see. All right, so yeah, that's the house fair. There's that prominence and CME. So, but there's still an unstable filament there, so don't be surprised to see more action. And that's probably where that proton event came from. It probably came from that filament waving around. If you look at the times, you can actually calculate the velocity of that solar energetic particle event. Anyway, again, the GOES electron flux here in storm levels, we're expecting pretty bad performance from GPSs. So there's the coupled thermosphere, ionosphere, plasmasphere, electrodynamics forecast. And of course, our viewers who use GPSs around the equator are well aware that it doesn't work well around noontime. A lot of people at mid-latitudes, they just think it should be hunky-dory all day long, but a lot of times we get real bad performance, say between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m., something like that, local time. At least that's the way it usually works here in Lehigh Valley. Interestingly enough, that's when a lot of bike rides happen. So it's always good to download the route and things. And we may see some radio blackouts today. So we're showing the D absorption region. This is where space weather begins, folks, at the D region of the ionosphere. Below that is mostly a neutral atmosphere. And above that is a mostly ionized atmosphere. So space weather begins at the D region, and Earth weather really ends in the stratosphere. And you could make the argument that all Earth weather occurs in the troposphere, because weather is not really occurring in the stratosphere. Even though clouds occupy it, it's not really what you'd call weather. I guess if you say cloud formation equals weather, then maybe. But yeah, so we could see some radio blackouts here as we have had some M-class flare events. So yeah, we could see some radio blackouts. Yeah, but the background flux is at like something like a C-class background flux right now. So there will be some moderate radio blackout there, but it doesn't look like major flaring happening, at least at the moment. Anyway, there's just a diagram of the ionosphere. We like to show that so people know that the F region, it does shrink and grow. It sort of shrinks at nighttime and it puffs up in the daytime as a result of incoming solar radiation like UV and infrared light. And here is the ionosphere. Let me just reload that. Here's the Australian Bureau of Meteorology ionosonde. And this one's just showing you the F layer. So this is the same layer that the GOES electron flux gets measured. You would note that if you look at the GOES electron flux, you'll see higher electron flux at noontime local time for the satellite and lower electron flux at midnight local time for the satellite. That is because of the incoming solar radiation. So yeah, that's what the ionosphere looks like in terms of its vibrational frequency. This is depicting megahertz, millions of vibrations per second. And we've got up to 14 megahertz right now. As the sun returns to the northern hemisphere and spring equinox approaches. Here's the anomalygram, anomaly in megahertz from a 30-day median. This graphic does well to display the South Atlantic anomaly, which is now in the western Pacific, right on the equator. It does also show the African anomaly, which is right on the equatorial African west coast. We've shown this for years on the channel, the wandering of the South Atlantic anomaly. It does not spell doomsday. Earth's poles probably always wander. And yeah, it's not just, I'm just not spooked of the pole shift. I'm just not convinced. Because if we were having a real magnetic excursion, we would see something not like this. We would see lots more anomalies all over the place. But we don't. It looks like this. And it looks just fine. If you're spooked of this, well, get in your bunker and watch the rest of the video from the bunker. Sound good? All right, so here is the blue marble in grayscale. Now, of course, our regular viewers are aware that Earth is, of course, croissant-shaped. So you're catching the, NASA, they're projecting the croissant-shaped Earth onto this spherical fake Photoshop template. And of course, all those clouds are man-made, pardon my sarcasm. But yeah, there you go. There's the current Atlantic sunrise as it occurs. And while we will keep an eye on it, we would remind our viewers that this channel costs a lot to make a reality. So please check out our merch shop. And we implore you to do the math and stop believing NASA's lies. Okay? Join the Croissant Earth Society and get the word out there for the way Earth is really shaped. It's shaped like the French breakfast pastry, not an oblate spheroid. What, are you listening to Neil deGrasse Tyson? Didn't you know that NASA was originally founded by actual Nazis? Yeah, Nazis. They founded the thing. So, geez, man. I mean, stop believing NASA's lies. NASA was founded by a bunch of Nazi rocket scientists, man. So what the heck? When are you going to stop believing NASA's lies and realize that Earth is shaped like the French breakfast pastry, the croissant, and join the Croissant Earth Society? Duh. Now that I got that out of my system. This is YouTube, folks. So, we make sure that we pay some lip service to all the nonsense and fraud on YouTube, because there's certainly enough of it. People are yelling at clouds right now. There is somebody right now. Think about this. If this isn't disturbing, I don't know what it is. There's a dude right now who's looking up at natural clouds and going, harp, harp. You know, this dude is in like Iowa or something, and he's like looking at a cloud and saying that radio towers in Fairbanks, Alaska are controlling his weather. It's it's to quote Mike Stacklasa of Red Letter Media, it's anyway, there's a U.S. water vapor map, and this is going to give you a great idea of the overall situation. We've got a band of dry, massive air. This is going to act like a blocking feature, as you can see it is, on both sides, because dry air is more massive than moist air at a given temperature and pressure. So there's that. And an atmospheric river is flowing into Oregon once again. So buzzword time, folks. Buzzword. Atmospheric river. Ho, my God. Dude, look at it's washing onto this atmospheric desert right here, just lapping up to the atmospheric shoreline of this atmospheric dry air. Oh, knows, folks, it's an atmospheric river. It's time to get in your atmospheric raft if you're flying an atmospheric airship, because otherwise you could need a lifeboat because of the atmospheric river or something. A buzzword. Tell Gina Maria Colvin Hill, oh, look out, Gina Maria Colvin Hill and Mr. MBB333 and Stefan Burns and Ben Davidson. Look the f*** out, folks. There's an atmospheric river, which is just simply moisture from the Pacific Ocean making its way over land and then losing energy and getting colder and being forced to become precipitation, otherwise known as an atmospheric river. Because reasons. Anyway, here's the forecast for Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. Today's high is expected to be 39 degrees Fahrenheit. Shout out to our local viewers, like cyclists. And did you know that Lehigh Valley is a massive cycling mecca? Would you like to ride with world-class riders all year round, especially in the summertime and the spring? And don't forget the fall. But yeah, thousands and thousands of epic bike riders in Lehigh Valley. As you know, tons of local pros and all kinds of world-class athletes are here every year. Many are from here, and you know we have the Valley Preferred Cycling Center and the Barbaro Dale Cycling and Fitness Course right across the street from that. We've got a 12-hour race as well as a 24-hour race on the solstice coming this year. So make sure you stay tuned for that. We'll definitely be covering that on the channel. 24-hour race at the bike park. Occurring on the solstice, so June 20th into 21st, 12 noon on June 20th to 12 noon to 21st. People will be trying to see how many miles they can do in 24 hours on a 1 mile fitness park lap course, asphalt paved trail. So it should be interesting. 24 hours is a long time for a time trial. Can you do 200 miles in 24 hours? I suspect somebody may, and it probably won't be me. But in any case, Saturday, sunny with a high near 51, calm wind becoming west around 5 miles an hour in the afternoon. Sounds like a good day to plan a bike ride. What do you say? Also, Friday is going to be warm near 45. But let's take a look at the U.S. Doppler radar map as it's still pretty sloppy south of the Mason-Dixon line. Yeah, south of the Mason-Dixon line. Let us know in the comments if you think Elon Musk has constructed your personal underground railroad to deliver you from slavery. He's delivering you into slavery. Elon Musk, folks. Everybody's best hope for a AI-fueled utopia. Him and Scam Altman. Those dudes are, pardon my sarcasm, really trustworthy people. Lake effect snow. Cincinnati's getting heavy rains. And anyway, there's the map. There's the map. And look at all the hot air in the world can't stop Denver from getting moist. All the hot air in the world can't stop precipitation from falling on the hot air capital of the world, Colorado, where more cults currently exist than possibly the rest of the world combined. Yeah. Oh, you bought from my link? Well, thanks, Barbarian1111. Again, folks, links in the description below this video to various places to get involved, help the channel out, and troll people. Troll people on a level. We don't meme the same. See, we don't meme the same on this channel. I've been doing this a while. One of the quotes would be, been in trouble on social media since before it existed. Because I was already on game servers by 1999. That's when the name Smash-O-Mash got made. That's when I took up multiplayer FPS gaming, which is where the name came from in the first place. It was an internet meme name before the year 2000. So, been doing this a while, not exactly new to the internet. And let's go back to the title of this video. If you think I take fashion advice or hairdo advice or any kind of style advice from random noobs on YouTube, you should think again, because I definitely don't. I've got my own ideas. And by the way, you also should set trends and not follow fads. Fads are the worst. So set trends, do not follow fads. How can you tell a fad? If it's in bad taste. Classic style never goes out of style. Trends were never in style. You see the difference? Have some. Have some. Like, you don't have to be this like island of uniqueness all the time. But for God's sakes, folks, are you jumping on bandwagons, joining tribes, and just looking like everybody else and just having the same vibe and being the exact same thing as everybody else? Because I hope not. That's boring. And let's check snow cover in the US. There we go. It's a high albedo continent right now. So, although parts of Canada are uncovered, the hot air capital of the world, that's Colorado. Because a lot of bullshit comes out of Colorado. Yeah, there's snow cover for the U.S. And let's look at lightning. We ain't got none right now, according to lightningmaps.org. That's only a 2.5 second delay. There is some lightning in the Atlantic, but not in North America. It's a real son of a bit turn if you're into lightning. Let's look at some snow forecasts, since we did get a little bit of something or other, somewhere or other. And let's do the standard 3-day GFS. Accumulated positive snow depth change forecast in inches. So there you go. There's going to be this band of snow that kind of makes its way across the U.S. And it looks like it's headed our way once again, but some warm weather on the way for Lehigh Valley. Perhaps go ride with the Lehigh Valley Cycling Club this weekend. I suspect they'll be hosting a group ride or two. Probably on Saturday, you'll probably be able to find some kind of a group ride. The Lehigh Valley Cycling Club, the Lehigh Valley's largest cycling club, dating its roots all the way back to 1952, I think it is. Oh, that's Bermuda. I was trying to scratch Bermuda off my map. Yes. All right, so what did I do here? So yeah, there's your snow forecast. GFS 72 hour. Let's take a look at the Earth's winds before we close this thing out. Show some more solar imagery. Deal with any more comments that have come through if they're noteworthy. And then bid you adieu. So here is our surface wind scenario for the central world. Shout out to our viewers from Europe and the Near East and Africa, the dark continent. We call it the dark continent because it's mostly dark at nighttime. All right, there is the jet stream scenario. Jet stream scenario for the west. We've got a doubled up jet stream over the northwestern U.S. And we've got very warm air rolling into places like Cuba and Dominica. The Isle of Hispaniola is getting warm weather. Surface winds are depicted here. Some strong winds across Montana. Surface winds of the east shown here. And finally, your jet streams. Looks like some cold air for Kimberly. Some cold air for Kimberly. All right, it's about time to close this thing out, so let's switch back to some solar imagery. I'll put your comments back on the screen here for a minute. Let's play some wavelengths that we don't always show. How about the 195 angstroms wavelength? And we'll put your chats back up here in a moment. So there's 195. That's one of the many ion spectra. It's ionized iron in the solar corona, part of the extreme ultraviolet spectrum. And it just refresh. We'll let that play through. And I'm going to just move your comments over a little bit here. Barbarian 1111 asks, have you ever been in a sand car, also known as a sand rail or dune buggy? It's a lightweight off-road vehicle designed for sandy terrain. I actually haven't, but I would definitely do so given the opportunity because, well, first of all, I used to drive RC cars when I was a kid, so I fell in love with dune buggies. They are a purpose-built vehicle that I think is really, really awesome because of the high suspension travel and, of course, you know, driving on dunes is fun. Keep in mind, I also plan on doing the Baja 500. So my friend and I are expecting, we're going to do the Baja 500, period. I mean, we're going to do it. And probably in a Toyota 4x4 truck. So it's going to have massive suspension on it, but yeah. We're just going to sort of enter into the, would probably be like the amateur category. But yeah, that's driving 500 miles through the desert at full speed in an off-road vehicle. Sounds like something fun. And yeah, that is a thing to come because now my buddy has a Toyota truck, but it's not the right one. We need one with a longer wheelbase for that. But yeah, it's coming. It's coming. You'll wave. The Baja 500 takes place in Mexico, doesn't it? Or almost entirely in Mexico. It's on the Baja Peninsula. All right. Anyway, it's time to close this out. We're gonna switch back to the 304 angstroms wavelength because it's so good at showing filaments. And like I said earlier, we've got unstable filaments down here in this southwestern limb. So that's a place to watch for action. And also watching for flares down here and even up here. So limb flares are a little more common than non-limb flares. That is, when a sunspot is right in the center of the disk, it's about 4% less likely to produce a flare or a large flare. And yeah, so that's what's going on. Space weather is calm, but it is ramping back up here with these new sunspots. So that's always exciting. It's always exciting to have viewers just like you tuning into the channel. And don't forget to press share. We'll see you soon here at the Smash News Network, the busted name of news. I've been your host, Dan, a.k.a. Smash-O-Mash, signing off. And until next time, may that coronal hole high-speed stream be at your back. Shut up in here. Shut up in here. Shut up in here. Don't yell at me, the stream's still running. Don't look at me in that tone of voice. Seven. Thanks to each and every one of our viewers for tuning into the live stream. We'll see you next time here at the Smash News Network, least busted name. Illuminati.